Hi, this is Miss Wright, and I am going to go over Cyrano de Bergerac, Act 2, the No Thank You speech. This is a work in translation, originally written in French and translated by Brian Hooker. The film version that I recommend is by with the lead actor Jose Ferrer. The important elements that I'm going to try to touch on very briefly: dramatic monologue, imagery, pride, independence, integrity, hypocrisy, idealist versus realist, and social criticism. I am going to go very quickly through these passages because I don't want to have to make two videos, since I know you don't want me to do that. Okay, so in this speech, and I'm not going to actually read the speeches to you. You can take the time to read the speeches yourself. So in this speech, it begins with a rhetorical question, and it is followed by a series of images that um, Cyrano poses, and they're images that he finds repugnant, things that he sees in society that he cannot abide. And comes from the whole idea of an artist, a writer, playwright, who cannot survive without a patron. And it was a custom in that time that an artist would have a benefactor, someone who would pay his or her expenses while the artist created. And Cyrano finds this whole notion of a patron unacceptable, because when you have a patron, you have to bow to that person's will. And Cyrano cannot imagine allowing himself to bend to anyone else's will. So the first image where he talked about seek the patronage of some great man, and like a creeping vine on a tall tree. So you have this image of a vine wrapping itself around a tall tree so it can climb, so it can rise. And Cyrano says, no, that's not me. I don't want to be dependent on someone else in order to rise, in order to climb. Crawl upward where I cannot stand alone. And the whole idea of being able to stand alone, to be independent, to be a person of integrity, not depending on others, is paramount to who Cyrano is as a person. Then he introduces the phrase, or the playwright introduces the phrase that will become the refrain throughout the monologue, which is no thank you, meaning that he rejects the things that he sees artists do. So this is really, when we talk about social criticism, here he's pointing a finger at other writers, other playwrights, other poets that he sees don't stand to their integrity, don't because stand as independent men and women. So dedicate as others do poems to pawnbrokers. This is supposed to be humor, because here he's saying, well, if you're poor, you may have to pawn your possessions to get money, and in the process maybe sweeten the deal by promising a poem to the pawnbroker, or dedicating a poem to the pawnbroker. And he says no, he's not going to do that. Be a buffoon in a vile hope of teasing out a smile on some cold face. So act like a clown so that some, cold-faced old man or woman can give me some money to live on. No, I'm not going to do that. Eat the toad for breakfast every morning is kind of an allusion to witchcraft, where you might have to eat a toad as a way of warding off evil. Here the evil would be having to abide by people that you can't stand all day. It's apparently a reference that's made in several French plays. Um, make my knees callous and cultivate a supple spine. Do you want me to crawl on my knees and bend over backwards to please other people? No, I won't do it. wear out my belly? Do you want me to crawl on the ground like a snake? No, he's not going to do that. Scratch the back of any swine that roots up gold for me. This is a metaphor because he's not talking about pigs. He's talking about people who give him money, and there's the gold. That's reinforcing the whole idea of money for uh, patronage, getting money from a patron. Tickle the nose of mammon with one hand, meaning take money and love money with one hand, while my right hand is too proud to know its partner's business. Do you want me to be a hypocrite? Do you want me to take money from these people with one hand, but then pretend to be independent with the other hand? No, I won't do that. He sees that as not having integrity. Use fire the gods gave me to burn incense all day long. This can be a mythological reference to Prometheus who gave fire to man. It can also be a biblical allusion since the God is capitalized to God, worshiping God with fire. But instead of actually worshiping the true God, you're worshiping idols, man-made gods made of wood and stone. He says, no, I'm not going to worship false idols. Those false idols here would be patrons. He says, no, thank you. Shall I go leaping into ladies' laps? Now, this is an allusion to the fact that sometimes patrons would pretend to be romantically interested in their benefactors to get more money out of them. And he says, no, I'm not going to do that either. And I put alliteration because you can see the leaping ladies and laps. Navigating with madrigals for oars. Madrigals here are songs or poems by sails full of the size of dowagers. Dowagers are rich old ladies. So am I going to recite poetry for rich old ladies so that they will support me? They will give me money? No, I'm not going to do it. And it must have been something that was being done that he finds repugnant. And that's where the social criticism comes in. He says, publish verses at my own expense. Now, this is, a dig at people who thought themselves to be writers, but could never find a publisher. So they published their own works and maybe sold them to their friends and neighbors. And he finds that ridiculous. Just a form of vanity. Be the patron saint of a small group of literary souls who dine every Tuesday. And this is where he again is making fun of people who think they're writers or aspire to be writers, but really just meet for social gatherings and maybe never write anything or never write anything of quality. He says he doesn't want to be one of those people. Shall I labor night and day to build a reputation on one song? Shall I be a one-hit wonder and just live off the reapings of one good poem or one good song? No, that's not the kind of writer he wants to be. Shall I find true genius among geniuses? Meaning, shall I only associate with people who are like me or people who only other writers? No, for some reason he finds that repugnant also. Palpate over little paragraphs, in a way, fixate on minor items in his work and struggle to insinuate my name in the columns of the Mercury being a newspaper. So, am I going to struggle to get a paragraph written here in the newspaper or a paragraph written there? No, he wants to be a more substantial writer than that. Calculate, scheme, be afraid, love more to make a visit than a poem. And this is a reference to the fact that some writers spend all their time just going from rich house to rich house to rich house to rich house, looking for supporters, being sycophantish, making social calls instead of making art. Seek introductions, favors, influences. And that's the whole idea of, once again, continuously on the lookout for someone or people who can help them financially. He says, no, thank you. No, I thank you. And again, I thank you, meaning I reject all of these completely outright. And this is where the monologue takes a turn. He begins to tell us what he does want. He wants to be able to sing, to laugh, to dream, to walk in my own way and be alone, free with an eye to see things as they are. So he wants to be an independent man, not restricted by anyone's patronage, to see life as it is and to say the truth that he sees, a voice that means manhood, to cock my hat to me, to do what I want, where I choose, at a word, a yes, a no, to fight, to write, to travel any road under the sun, under the stars, no doubt, if fame or fortune lie beyond the bourne. And when this whole part of the monologue reminds me of Ulysses by Alfred Lord Tennyson, where Ulysses wants to be able to go on that final journey in pursuit of knowledge. And here Cyrano wants to be able to go wherever he wants to, do whatever he wants to, in pursuit of truth and be able to speak that truth. Never make a line I have not heard in my own heart. He wants to be able to say how he really feels and what he really thinks, yet with all modesty to say, my soul be satisfied with flowers, with fruit, with weeds even. And you can hear the anaphora, you can hear the epanellipsis there. But gather them in one garden to my call, you may call your own. So when I win some triumph, some chance, render no share to Caesar. Like I don't want to have to give any portion of my success to anyone. In a word, I am too proud to be a parasite. This is not a man who wants to live off of others. A parasite is something that lives off of a more complex animal. He doesn't want to have to live off of anybody else. And if my nature wants the germ that grows towering to heaven like the mountain pine or like the oak, and here you can see the similes, sheltering multitudes, I stand not high. I may not be the tallest tree in the woods, but I stand alone. So I will have my independence. I will have my integrity. Lebret says to him after this wonderful long speech, alone, yes, but why stand alone in the world? What devil has possessed you now to go everywhere making enemies? And we begin to see that Cyrano is a man who is not afraid to make enemies. And that should alert us to possible danger. When you have enemies, something bad can happen to you. Cyrano says, watching you, other people making friends everywhere, as a dog make friends, which is truly an insult because you know when dogs meet each other, they sniff each other. Um, front and back, they sniff each other all over. I mark the manner of these canine courtesies and think, my friends are of a cleaner breed. Here, come, thank God, another enemy. So he's happy to make more enemies than friends. But this is madness. Cyrano says, method, let us say, it is my pleasure to displease. I love hatred, imagine. Okay, so read this for yourself because the one thing I want to get to before I'm done is at the end of this speech, when Cyrano makes all his protestations, his friend Lebret says, um, tell this to all the world and then to me. Say very softly that she loves you not. So Cyrano makes his grand appeal about his integrity, but his best friend sees right through it and realizes that he has not gained the love.